11. You know, rather than embracing all of this, many companies fight it. We even take away their tools. Banning Facebook, for example, is a popular thing to do.
Is it bad to ban Facebook from the workforce?
Well, every company needs these new tools to build a high-performance, innovative organization. Facebook is not the right tool, but to ban it is counterproductive. I mean, I was talking to a government employee where in the United States, a governor of a state had banned Facebook. And I said, why did he do that? And he said, well, the governor felt the young people are wasting their time. And I said, well, if they're wasting their time, is that a technology problem? You fix that by banning a technology? Maybe it's got something to do with motivation and workflow and job design and so on. He agreed. I said, what was the effect of banning Facebook? He said, well, everybody went to Twitter. Another U.S. government employee had a different answer. I said, what's the effect of banning Facebook? He said it was the single most demoralizing thing management has ever done. It said to our generation, we don't understand you, your tools, we don't understand collaboration, and we don't trust you.
Várias empresas encontram dificuldade na hora de contratar esse jovem profissional da geração conectada. Por vezes, eles são vistos com indiferença ou até ameaça aos seus superiores.
A gente observou casos aqui na empresa de pessoas da geração X que não aceitavam que uma ideia melhor ou inovação surgisse da geração Y.
Então, como transformar esse suposto inimigo em um bom e produtivo aliado?
That's an historic challenge and opportunity for every company, including in Brazil. These young people come into the workforce, you need to listen to them. You can learn from them. You can learn about how they collaborate to build a better and more high-performance work system. The way that we recruit them is differently. You recruit them through social networks. The way that we manage them is different. You don't supervise them like we used to do in the old industrial age production line. And the way that we retain people is very different too. You have to create work environments where there's good work-life balance, where they have an opportunity to be creative, and where you give them a license to self-organize to do the wonderful and creative things that they're capable of doing. And if we don't do this, companies in Brazil, there'll be a generational firewall. You know, you have a generation coming in, bumping up against the old generations, and this is a formula for conflict or worse.
Do you see this coming?
Well, I'm worried about it. I'm worried within our institutions, and I'm worried within society as well, because youth unemployment is not just a big problem in Tunisia. There's 43% youth unemployment in Spain. It's almost 30% in France and the UK. It's 23% in the United States. And all across Latin America, the economies are doing pretty well, but still there are a lot of young people who we told, you work hard, you stay out of trouble, you get a degree, you can have a prosperous life. And for that, a lot of them, that wasn't true. So we have some big social problems that we need to fix. The jobless recovery. I mean, that's a contradiction in terms. This is not a recovery unless it's inclusive.
Em 2006, Don Tapscott e seu amigo Anthony Williams ganharam a vida prestando consultoria para grandes empresas. Os dois resolveram criar um manual de produção colaborativa que impactasse a maneira de agir dos executivos. O livro se chama Wikinomics e fez sucesso entre aqueles que aprenderam a lição de um velho ditado: a união faz a força.
Well, Wikinomics is a word that I invented, and it's the art and science of collaboration. And when I say collaboration, I'm not talking about a bunch of people sitting in a room having a nice meeting. I'm talking about collaboration that can occur on an astronomical scale. So you look at something like Wikipedia. I mean, here's an encyclopedia in 190 languages. It's 10 times bigger than Britannica, but the quality is roughly the same. So if you can create an encyclopedia that way, what else could you create? Well, it turns out you could create a computer operating system. It's called Linux. Linux is now the dominant operating system for medium and large computers, and it runs on all of our mobile devices. It was created by a bunch of volunteers. It turns out you can create a physical good. like a motorcycle. The Chinese motorcycle industry is a whole bunch of little companies that collaborate as peers working together. There's no Harley Davidson pulling all the strings. This is now 1/3 of all global motorcycle production. And get ready for the $1,000 car from China, too.
So in a capitalistic, competitive society, this collaboration has to take place, actually.
Well, it does, because companies that work in networks perform better than companies that try and do everything inside their boundaries. This is not about socialism, collaboration, or something like that. It's about capitalism at its best. Procter & Gamble, half of its innovation comes from outside the company now. And in Wikinomics and now in macroeconomics, there are all kinds of examples of companies that have adopted the new mode of collaboration, and they're winning in the marketplace.
So you even say that in some cases, sharing information can be better than trying to hide it. From a corporate point of view, does it make sense?
Well, it makes sense to share a lot more information than we currently have. I'm going to just give you an example. There's a gold mining company called Goldcorp, and I met the CEO because he moved across the street from me, and he held a cocktail party to meet the neighbors. And he said, "You're Don Tapscott. I read your books." And I said, "Great, what do you do?" He says, "Well, I used to be a banker. Now I'm a gold miner." And he tells me this amazing story that he took over this company, a gold mine, and his geologist couldn't tell him where the gold was. And after a few years, he was so frustrated, he didn't know where to go into production. He was ready to shut the thing down, and he had a revelation. He wondered, if my geologists don't know where the gold is, maybe somebody else does. So he did a radical thing. He took his geological data, the biggest secret in the mining industry, he published it on the internet, and he held a contest called the Goldcorp Challenge, $500,000 for anybody who can tell me, do I have any gold? And if so, where is it? The result was he got submissions from all around the world, and for his $500,000 in prize money, he found $3.4 billion worth of gold.
Well, that was a good deal.
Yeah, well, the market value of this company went from 90 million, it's now worth over $30 billion. And I can tell you because he's my neighbor, he's a happy camper. You know, as one youngster said to me,
Para Don Tapscott, o futuro está na colaboração. Em Macroeconomics, ele ensina que o governo e a sociedade civil precisam trabalhar juntos para o bem de todos. Ressalta que a transparência é fundamental para criar um elo de confiança. Mas, por outro lado, se todos não agirem juntos, o feitiço pode se voltar contra o feiticeiro. Foi o caso do Wikileaks. O site de Julian Assange vazou documentos, fotos e informações confidenciais de governos e empresas. O conselho é seguir sempre numa via de mão dupla.
In macroeconomics, we talk about 5 principles that we need to adopt for governments, companies, the media, science, our systems for global problem solving, our healthcare, every institution. And they're collaboration, openness and transparency, sharing intellectual property, interdependence, understanding that business can't succeed in a world that's failing, and integrity, doing the right thing. And governments, when they embrace these principles and become more open, releasing all kinds of data, that data is used by companies, by other governments, by civil society organizations, and by citizens to create new value. The other thing is that transparency is a new force causing governments to be better. Governments are going to be naked. You have things like WikiLeaks. And there's some problems with WikiLeaks, but overall, transparency is a good thing for government because sunlight is the best disinfectant. And there are lots of corrupt governments in the world that are having to clean up because of transparency.
Are there actually governments that put these guidelines into practice?
Oh, yes. And all around the world, governments are using these principles and the internet to open up. I mean, your president, for example, in Brazil, could hold a digital brainstorm, a 3-day conversation of the entire population of Brazil that can get access to the internet. And for those who don't have access, you open up the libraries, you get companies to make technology available, and so on. Pick a topic, the Brazilian economy, or how can we reduce carbon emissions in Brazil, or how can we solve the traffic problem, or how could we have better health care? You engage millions of people in a conversation where the goal is not to tell her what to do, it's more to catalyze initiatives and to come up with new insights that could help us move the society forward. That digital brainstorm is one of a dozen new techniques that can be used by governments to move away from the old industrial age model of democracy where you vote but I rule.
Nosso programa chega ao fim por hoje, mas você pode revê-lo e deixar suas contribuições no nosso blog.